Okay, this next lesson is about mass in the imperial system. The most common unit of mass in the imperial system is pounds. You probably know and understand your weight to be pounds. Don't worry about this definition of weight, force of gravity. It's like a physics thing. So for us, mass and like weight, they're pretty much the same thing in our eyes. Basically, just you know, when you think of the word mass, just think weight. You're going to be okay. I wouldn't worry about too much about the pull of gravity. It doesn't really matter here on Earth. Okay, it just matters in physics and science if you're talking about outer space. And anyways, so here's some basic conversions: 16 ounces to the pound and 2,000 pounds to the ton. Okay, so the ounce is the lowest imperial measurement um, for mass. It's similar to the it's similar to the inch. Remember there was 12 inches in 1 foot? Well, it's similar in the sense that 16 ounces equals 1 pound. And LB is the symbol for pound, LB. So 16 is just a random number, just like 12 is a random number for inches to feet. So 16 ounces to the pound and 2,000 pounds to the ton. And the ton is like, you know, a ton, you would use that for like a truck or something like this, like a big semi truck or something. And then pound, we measure humans with pounds. And then ounce, that's OZ. Ounce, you can measure like food, for example, like a 16 ounce or like say 10 ounces of chips or something like this. So especially in cooking and baking, they would use ounce in the United States. Alright, so let's take a look at Rochelle's giving birth, and often babies being weighed is given in pound ounce, and they want to go total weight here. So just like in the previous lessons, you have to add similar units. So you cannot add ounce to pound, that doesn't make sense. So let me just highlight the pounds, add those together, and I'll highlight the ounces, add those together. So 6 and 5 makes 11 pounds, and 5 and 14 makes 19 ounces. Now you got to be careful here because pounds come in groups of 16 ounces. So 16 ounces is the 1 pound. So what you need to do is regroup the 19 ounces. So regroup. There's one group of 16 with a remainder of 3 in the number 19. So we can change 11 pounds to 12 pounds, subtract off the 16, and you're left with 3 ounces, which of course would be the remainder. So we'd say 12 pounds, 3 ounces. It doesn't make sense to say 19 ounces because, there's a pound in there. So 19 ounces is a pound, 3 ounce, so you got to add that on. Alright, next question involves the weight of water. It's approximately 2 pounds and 3 ounces, so 2 pound, 3 ounce. How much will 8 liters of water weigh? So let's times this by 8. You can do it separately, like you can multiply the 8 pounds and then multiply the 3 ounces. That's what I would do. Or you could initially just convert all this to ounces and times that by 8. It doesn't matter. I'll just times each of them by 8. 8 times 2, 16 pounds. 8 times 3, 24 ounce. Now we need to regroup the 24. So again, in the 24 there's only one group of 16. If you're not sure, just do 24 divided by 16 in your calculator. You're going to get 1 and some decimal. So what you need to do is put that one group into the pound. So 16 becomes 17. And then take off the one group, which is of course 16 ounces for 1 pound. 24 take away 16 is 8, and that's your final answer. If a basket of raspberries weighs 12 ounces and you need 4 pounds to make jam, how many baskets do you need? So you need 4 pounds. So 4 pounds times 16. Because there's 16 ounces per pound, you just times like this. You could do cross multiplication as well if you'd like. It's the same idea. 64 ounces is what you need. You have one basket that's worth 12. So divide by 12 ounces per basket. 64 divided by 12, and you get just over 5, just above 5 baskets. You might have to round it up to 6 baskets because it's 5.333, so 5 baskets wouldn't get you enough. So depending on what the situation would require, it's 5 or 6 baskets. Now talking about probably pounds and tons now. Here we have an elevator, 1.5 tons, and this is the American ton. If you look at my formula sheet, there's TON, which is 2,000 pounds. And then there's TONNE, which is the metric ton. So you gotta be careful here. There's also the, I think there's a British ton, which we won't worry about. We'll just do the American ton. Okay, so is it safe to do all this stuff here? So let's just check out what 1.5 tons is worth. So there is 2,000 pounds for a ton. So 1.5 times 2,000, and you're left in pounds. So it's 3,000 pounds. And then it says, is it safe? So that's the max. Nothing can be bigger than 3,000. Is it safe for 2 layers weighing 195 and 210? So let's add those up, 195 and 210. To load it with 65 boxes that each weigh 42, so 65 times 42, 2730. Add the 405 to the 2730. It's 3135. 3135 is too large. Okay, so you're gonna have to reduce the number of boxes that you take on the elevator. Alright, small truck, weighs 1,300 pounds, it's loaded with cement slabs that weigh 150 pounds each. If the maximum loaded weight of the truck is 2.75 tons, how many slabs can be loaded? So I'll do this question a little bit differently than the one I did above. Using cross multiplication, you might be more familiar with that. So 1 ton is 2,000 pounds. We have 2.75 tons, and we want to figure out X pounds. Cross multiply, you can see that is just a times. You just times those two numbers, divide by 1 does nothing. So 2,000 times 2.75, it's 5,500 pounds. Now what does it say again? Small truck weighs 1,300 and it's loaded with cement slabs that weigh 150. How many slabs? Okay, so let's take off the 1,300 for the truck. I think you do that. I don't know why they would include it otherwise. So you get 4,200. 4,200 pounds that you can load with these 150 pound slabs. So divide by 150 pounds. Jeez. Pounds per slab to see how many slabs you'd get. And 4,200 divided by 150 is 28 slabs. So that seems right. Next one, Kurt, planting wheat at the rate of 90 pounds per acre. So it's 90 pounds for 1 acre. That's how I read this. There's other ways to interpret that. You could go like 90 pounds per acre like this and then do a multiplication. So let's see what happens. So he plans to 320 acre. How many tons will he need? So we're going to first figure out x pounds because this is in pounds, so this has to be pounds. Cross multiplying 90 times 320. I got 28,800 and that's pounds. So remember that there's 2,000 pounds per ton. So with cross multiplication it would look like this. 2,000 pounds for 1 ton. We have 28,800 pounds. Put that over here, x ton. Cross multiply, you see that this will be a divide. Hopefully you're quite fluent with cross multiplication. 1 times 28,800 is just going to be 28,800. Then you need to divide the thing across x. So 28,800 dividing 2,000, and you get 14.4 tons of wheat. Alright, these next questions will probably involve money. So once you figure out the weight or the mass, then you just times it by the rate of money, okay? Just make sure the units are lining up as well. So 18 ounces of peanut butter, 28 ounces of this peanut butter, and 2.5 pounds of this peanut butter. Which is the best buy? Okay, so remember this is back to the start of the year. Unit price, so how much money for 1 unit. Okay, so you have to divide it's always going to be the dollars dividing by the amount. Okay, so and make sure if you want to compare it, you have to have same units. So if it's 329 for 18 ounce, you need to compare that with 479 for 28 ounce, and you got to compare that with 599 for 2.5 pounds. Now 2.5 pounds has to get converted to ounces. Okay, and we know that there's 16 ounces per pound. So times 16, 2.5 times 16, I'll get 40 here. So that would go down here. 40 ounces is the same as 2.5 pounds. Do these divisions in your calculator. So 329 divided by 18. This is 0.18 and it's dollars per ounce. 479 divided by 28, this is 0.17 dollars per ounce. And the last one, 599 divided by 40 is 0. After rounding, $15 per ounce. So which is the best buy? Well, the best buy would be, in their eyes, the cheapest. Which is the best buy? Just choose the cheapest option. Now you might love this type of peanut butter right there, so you're like, well, it's only 3 extra cents per ounce, so I'll probably just get the peanut butter that I love. I personally absolutely love peanut butter, and I would spend extra money to get good quality peanut butter, and I wouldn't cheap out. So it's an important skill to understand the best buy, but if it's talking about your favorite food, then you might be a little bit more willing to spend your money. Now the next question is about yarn. So it says $6.24 for whatever this 3 ounces. I don't know what that word is. How much will it cost to knit a sweater that requires 1 pound? Okay, so we know it's $6.24 for 3 ounces. So let's divide that. $6.24 divided by 3 is $2.08 for 1 ounce. Now how many ounces are in 1 pound? Well, there's 16 ounces in 1 pound. The ounces cancel. 2.08 times 16, $33.28. That's the dollars per pound right there. Alright. Moving along quite nicely here. Number 9. 200 cocoa beans. 200 beans are used to make 1 pound chocolate. So 1 pound chocolate. Okay, so that's dealt with. Beans are shipped in 200-pound sacks. Okay. Which contain about 88,000 beans. Okay, so let's maybe just jot that down over here. 1 sack equals 88,000 beans. And then also 1 sack equals 200 pounds. So I'm just jotting down what I know. I'm not exactly sure what I need to do. Okay, that's dealt with. That's dealt with. How many 1.5 ounce chocolate bars can be made from 1 sack of beans? Okay, well, 1 sack of beans gives me 200 pounds of chocolate. Alright, so it's kind of a weird question. Well, I'll just use the fact that 1 sack is 88,000 beans. Okay, and I'll also use this main one here. So 200 beans equals 1 pound of chocolate. I have 88,000 beans, X pound of chocolate. Cross multiplying 1 times 88,000 divided by 200. 440 pounds of chocolate. Times that by 16 ounces per pound. So times that by 16. So I have 7,040 ounces of chocolate. Okay, 7,040 ounces. How many 1.5 ounce bars can I make? Divide by 1.5 ounces per bar. So 7,040 divided by 1.5 is 4,693 bars of chocolate. Very weird question. Build your skills 10, 11, and 12. Here we go. Okay, now Zara buys 8 pounds and 12 ounces of strawberries at $1.98 per pound. What is her true cost per pound if 10% of the berries rot before she uses them? So this 8 pound, 12 ounce, like let's just convert it to all pounds because that's the price. So we have to work with this partial pound. 12 ounces. Okay, what do we know? 16 ounces is 1 pound. So 12 ounces is X pounds, cross multiply. 12 divided by 16 should be like 3/4 or 0.75. 0.75 pounds. So let's put that right here. You have 8.75 pound. You lost 10%, so times that by 0.10. So this is lost, so you need to subtract that. And you end up with 7.875 pounds. So like I said, you always take your amount and times it by the rate. Okay, so take your amount times $1.98 per pound. Pounds cancel, and the true cost would be 1560. No problem. Alright, so now next question involves Mark buying bags of sand, each weighing 25 pounds, for $1.68 per bag. One bag ripped and he lost all the sand. So what was his true price per pound? So 8 bags becomes 7 bags. And he paid $1.68 per bag. So times $1.68 per bag. Bags cancel. And it looks like he paid $11.76. Now he bought 8 bags, lost a bag, so 7 bags, each weighs 25 pounds, so times 25 pounds per bag. Bag cancels, 7 times 25, 175 pounds of sand. So he spent $11.76 for 175 pounds of sand. Divide that. And it looks like true cost 0.0672. So round that up, 0.07 cents per pound of sand.